Okay, so for your reading today, we're going to carry on with The Butterfly Lion and chapter 3 today, which is called Timbavati. Okay, it's a new week, Monday the 4th of May. Bertie was born in South Africa, in a remote farmhouse near a place called Timbavati. It was shortly after Bertie first started to walk that his mother and father decided a fence must be put around the farmhouse to make a compound where Bertie could play in safety. It wouldn't keep the snakes out, nothing could do that, but at least Bertie would be safe now from the leopards and the lions and the spotted hyenas. Enclosed within the compound were the lawn and gardens at the front of the house, and the stables and barns at the back. All the room a child would need or want, you might think, but not Bertie. The farm stretched as far as the eye could see in all directions, 20,000 acres of veld. Bertie's father farmed cattle, but times were hard. The rains had failed too often, and many of the rivers and waterholes had been all but dried up. With fewer wildebeest and impala to prey on, the lions and leopards would sneak up on the cattle whenever they could, so Bertie's father was more often than not away from home with his men, guarding the cattle. Every time he left, he'd say the same thing. "Don't you ever open that gate, Bertie, do you hear me? There's lions out there, leopards, elephants, hyenas. You stay put, you hear?" Bertie would stand at the fence and watch him ride out, and he would be left behind with his mother, who was also his teacher. There were no schools for 100 miles, and his mother, too, was always warning inside the fence. "Look what happened in Peter and the Wolf," she would say. His mother was often sick with malaria, and even when she wasn't sick, she would be listless and sad. There were good days when she would play the piano for him and play hide and seek around the compound. Or he'd sit on her lap on the sofa out on the veranda, and she'd just talk and talk about all about her home in England, about how much she hated the wilderness and loneliness of Africa, and about how Bertie was everything to her. But they were rare days. Every morning he'd climb into her bed and snuggle up to her, hoping against hope that today she'd be well and happy. But so often she wasn't, and Bertie would be left on his own again, to his own devices. There was a water hole downhill from the farmhouse, and some distance away. That water hole, when there was water in it, became Bertie's whole world. He would spend hours in the dusky compound, his hands gripping the fence, looking out at the wonders of the veld, drinking spread-legged at the water hole, at the browsing impala, tails twitching, alert, at the water hog snorting and snuffling under the shade of the shingai trees, at the baboons, the zebras, the wildebeest, and the elephants bathing in the mud. But the moment Bertie always longed for was when a pride of lions came padding out of the veld. The impala were the first to spring away. Then the zebra would panic and gallop off. Within seconds, the lions would have the water hole to themselves, and they would crouch to drink. From the safe haven of the compound, Bertie looked and learned as he grew up. By now he could climb the tree by the farmhouse and sit high in its branches. He could see better from up there. He would wait for his lions for hours on end. He got to know the life of the waterhole so well that he could feel the lions were out there even before he saw them. Bertie had no friends to play with, but he always said he was never lonely as a child. At night he loved reading his books and losing himself in the stories, and by day his heart was out in the veld with the animals. That was where he yearned to be. Whenever his mother was well enough, he would beg her to take him outside the compound, but her answer was always the same. "I can't, Bertie. Your father has forbidden it," she'd say, and that was that. The men would come home with their stories of the veld, of the family of cheetahs sitting like sentinels on their coach at the end, of the leopard they had spotted high in his tree larder watching over his kill, of the hyenas who they had driven off, of the herd of elephants which had stampeded the cattle, and Bertie would listen wide-eyed, agog. Again and again he asked his father if he could go with him to help guard the cattle. His father just laughed, patted his head, and said it was a man's work. He did teach Bertie how to ride and how to shoot too, but always within the confines of the compound. Week in, week out, Bertie had to stay behind his fence. He made up his mind, though, that if no one would take him out into the veld, then one day he would go by himself. But something always held him back. Perhaps it was one of those tales he'd been told of the black mamba snakes whose bite would kill you within 10 minutes, of hyenas whose jaws would crunch you to bits, of vultures who would finish off anything that was left so that no one would ever find even the bits. For the time being he stayed behind the fence, but the more he grew up, the more his compounds became a prison to him. One evening, Bertie must have been about 6 years old by now. He was sitting high up in the branches of his tree, hoping against hope the lions might come down for their sunset drink, as they did often. He was thinking of giving up, for it would soon be too dark to see much now, when he saw a solitary lioness come down to the waterhole. Then he saw that she was not alone. Behind her, on unsteady legs, came what looked like a lion cub, but it was white, glowing white in the gathering gloom of dusk. While the lioness drank, the cub played at catching her tail, and then, when she had her fill, the two of them slipped away into the long grass and were gone. Bertie ran inside, screaming with excitement. He had to tell someone, anyone. He found his father working at his desk. "Impossible," said his father. "You're seeing things that aren't there, or you're telling fibs, one of the two." "I saw him, I promise," Bertie insisted. But his father would have none of it, and sent him to his room for arguing. His mother came to see him later. "Anyone can make a mistake, Bertie dear," she said. "It must have been the sunset. It plays tricks on your eyes sometimes. There's no such thing as a white lion." The next evening Bertie watched again at the fence, but the white lion cub and lioness did not come. Nor did they the next evening, nor the next. Bertie began to think he must have been dreaming it. A week or more passed, and there had only been a few zebras and wildebeest down at the waterhole. Bertie was already upstairs in bed when he heard his father riding into the compound, and then the stamp of his heavy boots on the veranda. We got her, he was saying. "Huge lioness. She's taken 6 of my best cattle in the last 2 weeks. Well, she won't be taking any more." Bertie's heart stopped. In that one terrible moment, he knew which lioness his father was talking about. There could be no doubt about it. His white lion cub had been orphaned. But what if, Bertie's mother was saying, what if she had young ones to feed? Perhaps they were starving. "So would we be if we let it go on. We had to shoot her," his father retorted. Bertie lay there all night listening to the plaintive roaring echoing through the veld, as if every line in Africa was sounding a lament. He turned his face into his pillow and could think of nothing but the orphaned white cub, and he promised himself there and then that if ever the cub came down to the waterhole looking for his dead mother, then he would do what he had never dared to do. He would open the gate and he would go out and bring him home. He would not let him die out there all alone. But no lion cub came to the waterhole. All day, every day, he waited for him to come. But he never came. Okay, that's the end of chapter 2. Your 5 quick fire round questions and where to find them are all at the end of the questions. So, question 1, where was Bertie born? Question 2, what does the word compound mean on page 17? Why was having a compound important? Why was Bertie's father away, often away from home? What has happened to the lioness? And what does Bertie's heart stopped tell you about the way he was feeling? Why was he feeling that way? Stems. Make sure you answer in full sentences, please. Pause the video and unpause when you have had a go in your books. Okay, well done. So question 1, the answer is Bertie was born in a farmhouse in South Africa. Okay, the word compound means an enclosure or a small area of space. A compound was important so Bertie could play safely away from the danger of the wild animals. Bertie's father was often away from home as he had to guard the cattle. Okay, that was his job. He had to make sure that no none of the wild animals came and killed the cattle. The lioness has been shot by Bertie's dad on page 26 and page 27. And Bertie's heart stopped tells us that Bertie was feeling upset and shocked, maybe a little bit sick as well. He felt this way because his dad had killed the lioness he had seen, and he knew she had a lion cub who would be alone. Okay, so he's perhaps feeling a little bit upset about that, and a little bit sorry, a little bit guilty. Okay, so any of those sorts of words would have been good in your answer, as long as you backed it up with why. You're 2, and you've only got 2 questions today for your brain power, because both of them might be quite long. Okay, question 6, write a paragraph telling us what you've learnt about Bertie's family in this chapter. What do they do? What type of people were they? Okay, so there's lots. I've not given you a page for this, guys, because there's quite a lot of information scattered throughout the chapter. So it might be that you want to go through, if you've got a paper copy of it, if you've managed to print it off, highlight bits of information about the mum, the dad, okay, and write that into your paragraph. Okay, but check your sentences make sense, please. And question 7, how do you think Bertie feels most of the time? Why do you think this? Use evidence from the text on page 20 and page 22. Okay, pause while you have a go at those 2 questions. Information about mum. Okay, so what does it tell us about mum? So it does actually, there were no schools. His mother was also warning him to stay inside. So she was perhaps, oh, sorry, I've drawn through that. She was probably a little bit worried that he was going to get hurt. We know that his mum was his teacher. Okay, so that red underlined is his mum. His dad, we'll go with green. Bertie's father was more often than not away from home, with his men guarding the cattle. Okay, we know up here Bertie's father farmed cattle, but times were hard. Okay. It also sounds, again, he sounds quite worried. Do you hear me? You stay put, you hear? That sounds to me as well like he might be quite strict. Okay, he might be quite strict. Okay, let's have a look. So we're going to go back to red because we're looking at mum. Okay, his mum was often sick with malaria. Even when she wasn't sick, she'd be listless and sad. Okay, and it says here there were good days where she'd play with him and that she'd talk about her home in England and that things would be all fun. But they were rare, and we can see that up here. Okay, so from this information that Michael Mupperger has given us about mum, we're thinking that she doesn't particularly like Africa. Okay, we've got here the loneliness of Africa, and how Bertie was everything to her. So again, we've got that she's probably quite lonely. We get the impression from that she's not got any friends, or she's got very few friends. Okay, Bertie was everything to her, and every morning he'd climb into her bed. That shows us that they're quite close. Okay, the mum and Bertie. The dad is there less often, so we don't know as much about him, other than that he's quite strict and that he farms cattle. So you've got here some information that on the good days Bertie's mum would be his friend. Okay, she'd tell him, she'd play the piano, they'd play hide and seek. Okay, but often she wasn't. Okay, and on page 20 here you've got this quote, Bertie would be left on his own. And that word again, I'm going to circle that word again gives us the impression that he's left on his own a lot. Okay, he's an only child, there are no other children in the household. He was left on his own again, So it's almost like he's got nothing to do. It says here, to his own devices. So he's left to entertain himself. So have a think. In your answer, you should have included something that he might feel quite isolated, quite lonely, quite upset. Okay, you've got here as well, page 22, Bertie had no friends to play with. He always said he was never lonely as a child, okay, but he must have been quite lonely, mustn't he, if he had no friends to play with, and his only friend really was his mum, and some days she was okay, but the majority of days she wasn't very well, and she didn't do fun things with him, okay. So that, if something like that is included in your answer, then that is fab. Guys, you should have today 2 quite lengthy answers. Can you send them over to us as an email so we can have a little look at how you're getting on with your comprehension? Thank you. Well done, guys.
Good morning, guys. Happy Monday. I hope you all had a fabulous weekend. So we're going to start off today's session by marking what you did on Friday. So make sure you've got your workout from Friday and a coloured pencil or a different coloured pen or something to mark through your work. Okay, and remember, guys, if you've struggled on this or you've not quite got it, that's absolutely fine. Do let me know and we can revisit it again later on. It's not a problem. I can do some recap videos or some extra learning videos and upload those to explain it a bit further if that helps. Okay, so last week then we were looking at adding and subtracting fractions. Okay, so number 1, it was asking you to complete this part whole model. So let me just there we go. That's what I wanted. So I want to get my purple pen. There we go. So complete this part whole model. So you've got 2/12, 6/12 and 1/12. All you needed to do was add all of those together. Now remember, the amount of equal parts altogether does not change. So our denominator should still be 12. And our numerator, you're just adding your numerators together. Okay, so we've got 6 add 2, 6, 7, 8, add 1 is 9. So your answer should have been 9/12. It's not purple, is it? There you go, I've got purple on. Number 2, it was put into a sentence, into words for you to try and trick you. And it was saying 8/10 subtract 2/10 equals 6/10. True or false? If you've got 8 equal parts out of 10 altogether and you take off 2 of those tenths that have already been coloured in, you should have 6/10 left. So that one should have been true. Well done if you've got that correct. Number 3, it says draw an image to match the statement. So 7/8 subtract 6/8 equals 1/8. So for that, I probably you could have done a bar model with 8 equal parts. This is something that I probably would have done. Let's see what colour that comes out. Oh, that's not happening in white, is it? I'll do it in yellow. Oh, no, I will do it. And that one. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to do this way. That's going to be nice. It won't be perfect. Oh. So I'm doing it with my finger on my screen. So, well, that doesn't even look equal parts. There you go. So hopefully you've tried using a ruler or something for yours. Okay, so I've got my 8 equal parts together. I've started with 7, so colour in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so it could have looked something like that, and then we're taking away 6 of those equal parts that I've already got. So what you could have done then was simply cross off like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then you can see we've got that just the 1/8 left. Okay, if you've done something similar to that, or perhaps you've got you've drawn a pizza like we looked at, or chocolate bar that's split into 8 equal parts, you're showing me 7 of those 8 equal parts, and then just showing me that 6 of those 7 have gone, either by crossing them off or just showing me that they get taken away. So you should be left with just 1/8, one of those 8 equal parts altogether. Okay. Number 4, how many 6 take away 4/6 is 2/6. Okay, so all we have to do is use the inverse there, and I'm going to just add those 2/6 back on to those 4/6, which would actually give us 6/6. Okay, so it's 1 whole. Okay, number 5, true or false? 3/8 add 1/8 add 2/8 equals 7/8. So let's add all of those 8s together. So we've got 3, add 1 is 4, add 2, 4, 5, 6. So that should equal 6/8, which means that was false. Okay, so you could have just said false and you'd have got a mark, but if you've given me the right answer as well, then you can have 2 marks for that question. And number 6, 2/9 add how many ninths? Add, sorry, 2/9 add 1 what? Add how many ninths equals 7/9. Now, I think we actually did this one as part of the practice before. You do it on Friday. So well done if you spotted that and you got the answer because it was already there. But if you didn't and you had a go, then amazing. Well done. So 2/9 now, if our denominator in the answer is 9 and we're adding 9 equal parts, then we know that must be 9. Okay, that doesn't change. So we've got 2/9 add 1/9, that would be 3/9. And then how many more do we need to add to get 7/9? 4. Oh, okay, 4/9. Okay, so that would have been your missing number there. Okay, well done, guys. So now let's have a look at our secure it. Okay, so remember these questions where I explained it last week on Friday for you. That equal sign is just telling us that whatever that first calculation equals, the answer to that is going to be the same answer as the second calculation. Okay, so 7/7 take away 3/7. We know that equals 4/7, so I'm just going to write that up there. So 2/7 add what is going to, remember, it's got to equal 4/7. It's got to be balanced. Okay, it's got to equal the same as the first calculation. Okay, and we know that 2 add 2 equals 4. So your missing numerator there would be 2. Okay, for the second one then, how many ninths take away 5/9 is equal to 4/9 take away 2/9. I'm going to work out that second calculation first. So 4/9 take away 2/9 is 2/9. I'm just going to write that above. So we know that this first calculation has got to equal 2/9. So what take away 5 equals 2? Well, if we add the 2 back onto the 5, we'll get 7. Okay, so 7/9 take away 5/9 is equal to 2/9, which is what 4/9 take away 2/9 equals. Okay, so they've got to be balanced. Okay, so now the second one here is a bit tricky for me to explain really, or to get every single possible answer because there'll be quite a few. How many fraction, addition and subtractions can you make from this model? Okay, so we've got here, there are 9 equal parts altogether. So whatever you've done, your denominator needs to be 9, okay, because there's 9 equal parts altogether. Now, coloured in, we've got 3, 6, 7, we've got 7/9 there. So one of the ones hopefully we could have spotted is that you're going to have 7/9 in one of those calculations. Whether that's going to be your answer if you're adding, or whether it's going to be your starting number when you're subtracting. So you could do 7/9 take away anything, really. So I could do 7/9 take away 1/9, would be 6/9. I could do 7/9 take away 2/9, would be 5/9. Take away 3/9, would be 4/9. Take away 4/9 would be 3/9. So on and so forth. So you could have done that. Okay, get rid of all of those. Rub those off. Okay, so if you've done any one of those, tick them all. That's perfect. We could have done, you could have said that we actually maybe started with 8/9 and we've taken away 1/9, and that's how we've got those 7/9 shaded in. Could have done that. We could have maybe had 7/9 as our answer, and then you could have literally done any addition of ninths to equal 7 ninths. So you could have done 6 ninths add, oh my goodness me, my little fat fingers are making it very difficult. 6 ninths add 1 ninth equals 7 ninths. We could have done then 5 ninths add 2 ninths. Could have done 4 ninths add 3 ninths. Okay, and then you could have done 3 ninths add 4 ninths, and so on and so forth to equal 7 ninths. And there's lots and lots and lots of different ones that you could have done for that. But I think as long as you've got 7 ninths in there somewhere, it'll be brilliant. And as long as your denominators are 9, just double check that that it makes sense. You know, if you're subtracting, then you're starting with the whole amount, and if you're adding, you're ending with the whole amount. Okay, well done, guys. So today then we are moving on from fractions, and we're going to start looking at time. And the first thing we're going to do before we actually even look at a clock is just recap and explore months and years. Okay, just checking our understanding of time and in general, which will be really, really helpful. And I know you guys are pretty hot actually on your months, and we did talk about months because this year is actually a special year, and we did talk about this a little while ago. So hopefully you'll be able to use some of the things we talked about for today. So on your page you should see 2 calendars. Okay, so we've got a calendar for the year 2019 and a calendar for the year 2020, which is this year that we're in now. Have a little look. What can you notice? Okay, you don't have to write anything down. We'll have a little look at, if I move 2020 first. Have a little look there at the calendar. Have a little look at what the first, so these little pages here, these are a month, and it's showing all of the days. Okay, now across the top here, we've got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay, now the numbers underneath are the days of the month, that's the date. And you can see we've got 7 days there. So each line, each row is showing us the date of the day of the week. All right. And we can see how many days are in each month by looking at the last number on each one. Okay. So have a little look there. Now this is the order. Now remember when we have Christmas, after Christmas in December, so Christmas is here. So after we have Christmas in December, when we get to the last day of December, December the 31st, that's New Year's Eve. Because the next day is the start of a new year, which is when it is January the 1st. Okay, so that's why January is the first month of the year. Okay, and we are currently in May. Okay, so let me get rid of that circle so you can see it. So we are here. Right, now this is last year's calendar, so it's not going to be match up the same date and day, but we are in May at the moment, which is why when we're writing our date in numbers, we say the 5th, okay? The 5th month of the year. Okay, so January, February, March, April, May. So we're in the 5th month of the year so far, which just seems bonkers, doesn't it? It's going so fast. So yes, we're in the 5th month. Okay, so just have a look at those. That was last year. And I want you to focus on February in particular. Okay, what do you notice about February, and what do you notice about how many days there are in that year? In that month in the year 2019. Okay, now we're going to have a look at this year's calendar. This is 2020. It's not quite as clear as the other one. Okay, 2020, same months, okay, in the same place, same order. It's some calendars they'll start on a Monday, some of them start on a Sunday. So just watch out for those at the top, whether it says an S for Sunday or whether it's an M and starts on the Monday. So do just check for those when we're looking at them. But I asked you to look at how many days are in February in 2019. Now have a look at find February. How many days are there altogether in February? What's the last number? What can you see? Hopefully you've spotted that for some reason. Oh, sorry guys. my big fingers again. Have a little look in February. In the year 2020, this year, there's 29 days. Now, I remember this when it was, when did we do? That was it. It was on the Friday, 28th of February, and we were in school, and I think it was Lexianne who said something about your nan saying that tomorrow was March, and we had this whole discussion how usually tomorrow would have been March, however it wasn't. The Saturday was going to be the 29th of February, and we had this whole discussion about it, and somebody, I can't remember, it might have been Charlie, I said, oh, it's because it's a special year this year. There's 29 days in February instead of 28. There is an extra day. Can you remember why there was an extra day in February? What's special about this year, 2020? Hopefully, at least one of you is saying it's a leap year. Yes, so every leap year happens every 4 years, and there's an extra day in the year, and that day is 29th of February. So instead of there being 28 days, there's 29. And this is a leap year. So we had a little chat about that on February 28th, and that would normally be the last day of the month, but it wasn't for this year. Okay, so, but everything else is the same apart from the days. So January the 1st, let's have a look there, is a Wednesday in 2020. Oh my goodness, sorry. However, here, January the 1st was a Tuesday. Okay, so each year it kind of jumps along one. Okay, so it's not always the same. It's not always going to be the same day. Okay, so later on, when I'm asking you some questions, especially if you'll do it, I want you to come back to this page to help you. All right, if you need a reminder of the order of the months or the days or what comes next. Okay, so let's just check what you know. Going to have a look at how many days there are in a year, how many months there are in a year, days in a leap year, days in a week, and how often a leap year happens. Now, I've briefly mentioned that, so if you can't remember, then you can always zoom back. It's not a problem. But just have a little think. You don't have to write this down. You can just think about it and see if you've got it. If you know, if you don't know, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so at the top here we've got a few different numbers. These are going to be your answers, so just putting them in the right place. So, how many days are there in a year? Now, that's just an average normal year. I don't think it's going to be 7, because that's not very many. It's certainly not going to be 4, because that's less than 7. I don't think it will be 12. I definitely think there's more days in a whole year than 12. Now we've got here 2 bigger numbers. Okay, we've got 365 or 366. Now we know that sometimes there's an extra day in February, so that might be when it's a special year, which means there are 365 days in a year. Okay, so how many months are there in a year? There are 12 months. Okay, so when you have a look back here, I've got January, so count them and check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep, 12 months in a year. So how many days are there in a leap year? Well, if there's 365 in a normal year, and in a leap year there is an extra day in February, so instead of being 365, there'll be 366. Okay, how many days are there in a week? So 7 or 4? I know sometimes we think there's 5 because we have 5 school days and we forget about the weekends. But remember, you do have 5 school days: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But then you also have the weekend, which is Saturday, Sunday. So there are 7 days in a week. And a leap year happens every 4 years. Okay, so we've got that there. So again, if you get stuck later on, you can always whiz back to this part. Okay, right. I'm going to play a little song for you. I really hope it plays and works and you can hear it. I look very silly. And this is the song. I think you guys, I do have a vivid memory of you guys all screaming some sort of song at me, but this is the one I know, so have a little listen to it. There are lots of others. I think there's even a rap one somewhere, but I like this one, and after I played it, it did get stuck in my head the entire day. So apologies, parents, if this song gets stuck in your head as well.
There are 30 days in September, April, June and November. All the rest have 31 except February. Now February has a changing number of days. In a leap year 29, in other years 28. Yeah, there are 30 days in September, April, June and November. All the rest have 31 except February. Now February has a changing number of days. In a leap year 29, in other years 28. Now add them all up, what have you got? The number of days in a year. In a leap year 366,
366.
but most of the time 365.
I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you heard it. But yeah, that's a nice little song to remember. It definitely helps me, especially I'm not going to lie, I still use it today sometimes just to check how many days there are in a month, especially for that first little bit of the song. 30 days in September, April, June and November. All the rest have 31. Apart from February, that has a changing number of dates. Okay, so yeah, keep playing that, keep singing it. If you can remember it and rehearse it all and you want to sing it to me and in a video and send it me, you can. That would be incredible. Okay, so here's your do it then. Now you can use that song to help you. You can use any of the other slides to help you if you need to go back. This is a bit of a trickier do it. It's not like I'm just giving you calculations like the other ones. Okay, but I know you guys will use your common sense in terms of how to write it in your book, but I'll explain it just in case. So this is for you to do in your book. So obviously you've got the date in the LO. Number one, I want you to put those dates in order from the earliest in the year. Okay, remember what month do we start in, to the latest in the year. So if you need to go back to the calendar, that's absolutely fine. So what you can write in your book is you can write the word earliest and then write down those dates and then put latest at the end. Okay, so you can write them down like underneath like that. Okay, that's fine. And then number two, write the date a week later. So you can write a little table literally just like that in your book. Okay, so write 27th of June. Now what will be the date a week later? Now remember how many days there are in a week. Okay, that's what you've got to add on to it. But if I were you, I would go back and check on the calendar to help you. And same for 19th of March. And then number three, which month comes after July? And number four, what is the day that comes after December 31st? Okay, think about what day that is and what you might be doing on that day. What happens at midnight? Okay, now secure it. 4 children describe their birthdays. So Mo says, my birthday is the first day of the second month of the year. Teddy says, I was born on the 15th of June. Eva says, I was born on the last day of the year. So the last day before the year changes into a new year. And Dora says, I was born 2 days before Mo. So can you work out their birthdays and order them from earliest to latest in the year? So if I were you, I would write down their names. So I would just literally write down a list. I put Mo, Teddy, so on and so forth, and I would do them in a list like that. And then next to them, I would write the date, their birthday. Okay. If you want to write them out again afterwards in order, you can do that, or you can just put in numbers next to them which one is earliest. Okay, you can number them like that. Ethan, I know you love doing things that sort of way, ordering them without writing them out again, just putting the numbers next to them of the order of which they are. That would be absolutely perfect, whichever way makes sense for you. There isn't necessarily a wrong way to do it, as long as it makes sense and you can check it when we mark it. Okay, Good luck, guys. Keep singing that song. I hope it gets stuck in your head as much as it did in mine when I made this. I'll be singing it all day, no doubt, and annoying everybody with it. But yeah, keep practicing it. And if you learn it, then send me a video of you singing it. That would be amazing. That would make my day. Have a fantastic rest of your day, guys. Send me any pictures of your work if you want a special shout out, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye, guys.
Good morning, everybody. It's Monday and this is our writing challenge for today. So first of all, we're going to do our warm-up work, and this week we're going to be thinking about verb tenses, okay? So these are our verbs that we were talking about last week. So our verbs are our action words. They tell us what's happening within the sentence. But these verbs can happen in the past, in the present, or in the future. So one way I like to remember this and try and work it out is if I'm doing the past tense, I put the word yesterday in front of the sentence. And if I'm doing the present tense, I put the word today in front of the sentence. So today we're just going to have a little look at these because you're going to be doing these as a warm-up work throughout the week. And we're going to do a little bit more on tenses as we go through. But if we have a little look to start with at this first one, it's in the present tense. So that's a today one. So today, Joe is skipping through the forest. So if we think about what's happening in the sentence, what Joe is doing, he is skipping. So if I wanted to start my sentence in the past tense with yesterday, we'd say yesterday, Joe skipped through the forest. Okay, so have a little look at this one. This one's in the past tense. So yesterday, imagine, Joel ran down the road to his grandma's house. How could you write that starting with the word today? Today, Joel to his grandma's house. Pause the video here, have a little think, try and do that second one for me and come back to me with your answers. Okay, let's see how you got on. So, were you able to change from the present tense to the past tense? So, Joe is skipping through the forest becomes Joe skipped through the forest. And this one was the past tense back to the present tense. So Tim ran down the road to his grandma's house. Did you get Tim is running down the road to his grandma's house? Have a little think. What do you notice about these present tense verbs? What's similar about the tenses? Because we're going to be thinking about that when we move on to our learning today. Okay. So today's learning is all about writing in the past and present tense using regular and irregular verb forms. Okay, so we've talked about past and present already, but regular and irregular is about spelling. So we're going to have a look not only about when the sentences took place, but also how we spell some of those different verbs as well as we go through today. So first of all, let's remind ourselves what verbs are. Okay, so verbs tell us that someone or something is doing something, or maybe they're feeling something, or they're being something. It's that action part of the sentence. So if we have a little look here, Basanti loves her cat. What is Basanti doing? Have you spotted the verb in that one? Okay, Basanti's cat sleeps all day long. What's the verb in this sentence? What's Basanti's cat doing in this sentence? This one's a feeling, okay? So the sentence is I sympathise. Which of the two words is the verb in that sentence? And I absolutely adore my budgie. What do I do? What's my action within that sentence? Hopefully, as you've gone through, you've noticed that these are the verbs. So we've got sleeps and adore. I love, I adore it. And we've got loves and sympathise. That's the action that's happening in each of these sentences. So our verbs usually have the name of a person or a thing, the noun, in front of them. And that helps us to spot which one the verb is. Okay. So all verbs have a tense, okay? And the tense tells us when the action happened. So is it today? Is it yesterday? Is it tomorrow? When did the things happen? So if we have a look here, Basanti's cat caught a mouse. The verb is caught. Now is that happening in the past or in the present? Okay, have a look at this one. My budgie sings all day long. Our verb is sings. Have a think. Is that sings now or did they sing yesterday? Let's have a little think. Is it in the past or is it in the present? Okay. So, Basanti's cat caught a mouse. That means that he's already done it. So it happened in the past. So if we wanted to change that sentence, like it says here, into the present tense, What could that sentence be? Basanti is a mouse. Have a little go, write it down. Okay, then if you come back, we have a little look at the budgie. My budgie sings all day long. She sings all day long. It's happening right now. It's happening in the present, okay? So if I wanted to say yesterday, so I'm writing it in the past tense, I said yesterday my budgie, all day long. This is an irregular verb. It's not as normal spelling. So have a think. Yesterday my budgie, all day long. What's the irregular verb that we're missing? Okay? So for example with this, I play football every Saturday, or I played football every Saturday if I've stopped doing it now. So now we're going to have a look at a little video to help us to talk about the different tenses. Have a little watch.
Free biscuits. Oh, who will fall for that? When we talk about things that haven't happened yet, we call it the future tense. We often use the word will in front of a verb. Looks like he will be sticky. Seriously? You really do fall for everything. When something is happening now, we use the present tense. Now he is sticky. Sentences that describe something that's already happened and use words like was are in the past tense. He was sticky. Every verb has a past, present and future tense form. Licked, licking and will lick. Hey, no, don't you even think about... Oh, yuck.
Okay, hope you enjoyed that and it helped to explain that past, present and future tense a little bit more. We're going to go into this in a little bit more detail now. So, verbs all have a tense. They tell us when the action happens. So if we have a little look at some of these as an example, we've got the present tense, the sheep walks. He's doing it now. The sheep walks. She carries a bag. You can see that there. She's doing it now. She carries a bag. I eat an ice cream. I'm doing it right now. And you do not have to smile. Happening now. So let's look at the past tense versions. So the sheep walks becomes the sheep walked. Looking at the sound that's on the end of these. She carries a bag becomes she carried a bag. I eat an ice cream becomes I ate an ice cream. And you do not have to smile becomes yesterday you did not have to smile. So do becomes did. Okay. So for regular verbs, I said to look out for the spellings, didn't I? We're looking at verbs that end in ed. So all of these are past tense. They happened yesterday and they all end in ed. And they show us that the action's happened and it's finished. So we walked, we jumped, we scored, we danced, we skated, we listened, we balanced, okay? And some verbs, although they're happening in the past and they are complete, they don't use that ed spelling and we call those irregular verbs, okay, because their spelling is different. So if we look at ran, our regular verb in the present tense is run, and the same for won is win, did is do, and threw is throw, okay. So the spelling changes a little bit. We looked at one earlier, didn't we, and it was sing and sung. So you can see that some verb forms don't just pop an ed on the end. We have to listen very carefully for them. So now we're going to have a little go together, and this is our writing for today. And we're going to be thinking about the verb tenses, and we're going to be swapping them round and then having a little go at using them to help us to order a story. So to start with, what tense do you think these sentences are? Are they happening in the past? Have they already happened? Or are they happening now? Okay, listen carefully, see if you can work it out. It rains and rains. Basanti carries the cat. We do not want to go, and we are lost. What verb, what tense are these sentences in? Okay, you're absolutely right. They are in the present tense. It's happening right now. So it's rains and rains. Basanti carries the cat. We've got no ed, so it must be the present tense. We do not want to go, and we are lost, remembering that do and are also our verbs. So my challenge for you now is to change them from the present tense into the past tense, okay? So instead of today, it rains and rains, we will say yesterday, it and how are you going to change it? Remember, try and put that word yesterday in front of it, because that helps you to write your sentences. So pause the video now, have a go at those 4 sentences and come back to me when you've finished. Okay, super. Let's have a little look at the answers then. So we've changed them from the present, it rains and rains, hopefully, to the past, which was it rained and rained. We're using those EDs, those irregular verb forms, okay? So then we've got Basanti carries the cat, becomes Basanti carried the cat. We do not want to go, becomes we did not want to go. So our do becomes our did, an irregular verb. And again, we are lost becomes we were lost. So we've got 2 irregular verbs there, okay? We're going to have a look a little bit more of this today. So can you change these sentences from the past tense into the present tense? So now we're looking to try and put that today in front of our sentence to see if we can make sense. So yesterday my budgie squawked. Today my budgie is... Pause the video now, have a little go, and we'll come back with the answers in a second. Okay, let's see how you got on. So yeah, yesterday my budgie squawked. Today my budgie squawks, or my budgie is squawking, you could have. Okay, Basanti grabbed her coat. Today Basanti grabs her cat, not coat. Okay, we've got we found the cage as the past tense. Today we find the cage. And then I was relieved becomes today I am relieved, one of those irregular forms at the end. Okay. So I hope you managed to get those answers correctly today. If you haven't, make sure you pause the video, you go back, you think about it and you go through it. We're going to carry on with our verb forms tomorrow. But that's it for our writing today, a nice short one for today. And then we're coming back with some progressive verb forms tomorrow. We've got new connected curriculum this week. So this week's connected curriculum is all about our topic, the world of wonders. And on that this week, we're going to be having a look at erosion and particularly the features of coastlines and why we get certain shapes and features in our rocks, okay? So within your pack this week, you've got an essential task. So there's a bit of work in there that everybody would like, they'd like everyone to have a little look at. There's a couple of little videos to watch that shows you how erosion happens, and there's some information for you to read about the different types of features of coastlines. And then once you've researched that information, you found out a bit more about it, there are 4 possible challenges if you want to complete them this week to show us what you know about the different features of coastlines. One of them is to write a newspaper report about the Holbeck Hotel, to find out all about what happened there and write about it. The second challenge is to make a model to show the different formations caused by coastal erosion, the different shapes that are made, so it's a bit of model building. Challenge 3 this week, if you want to have a go at it, is about preventing erosion. So thinking about different ways to defend ourselves from the seas and to write a letter to the Prime Minister to ask him to put in your sea defences. And challenge 4 this week, if you are interested in that, is to create an explanation text or a booklet or a poster or a video to show other people how the different coastal features are formed. All of the information for this is in your work packs, along with all the links to the videos and lots of resources to help you. So make sure you have a little look, and we shall see you tomorrow for another day of our learning adventure. Bye everyone.